The sons of Hercules, the mighty sons of Hercules, once thundered through the years. These men of steel could never feel the curse of a coward's fears. The mighty sons of Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters. I am the master of muscles and mayhem and peplum movie reviews. Today we are going to be talking about a 1961 movie from Italy. We've been in Japan and dinosaurs in the prehistoric era quite a bit, so I thought we'd do something a little different here. Instead of where he's not wearing a costume at all, he's not wearing much of anything. But this is the Giant of Metropolis, or El Gigante de Metropolis, which is pretty much the exact same name in Italian, but in Italian, not in Spanish, which is what you see right here. See, Il Gigante de Metropolis. This starred Gordon Mitchell as Obro and a bunch of other beautiful Italian people. This particular film here was recreated by a fan. I'm pretty sure he used to be on YouTube, but just did a magnificent job using the English dubbing and then doing it. So before we get in too far, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and always hit that bell so you'll be notified every time we get new content. That does include the beautiful and fun cats that I have playing with dinosaurs. Because what's better than cats and dinosaurs, really? And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please, or even if you're listening on Spotify, please watch for a couple more minutes longer than you normally would. Really appreciate it. Grab yourself a big old bowl of hummus of perfection, and let's get into Gordon Mitchell starring in The Giant of Metropolis. So these are some of these are recreations. The credits here that he did. I mean, really, when I say he did a great job, he did a great job. He did Constantine Furman level great job. And
The Giant of Metropolis. For the first time, Filmdom has dared to explore the fascinating, mysterious story of Metropolis, the continent that reached its greatest splendor at a period now lost in the darkness of primeval time.
That sure was a lot right there. So once again, you can see these are the new ones that you've got, as well as then, I just kept a couple of them because this would be in Italian. So I'm sure he took the Italian print and then just redubbed it with the English language one, which originally came from Italy because, as we have discussed, all Italian films at that time period were shot silent. So you wouldn't get their real voices anyway half the time. But that's where it was set, 20,000 BC, or before Common Era, as it's known now. And we will. All right, so BCE, and it gives Obro, born in the East. East of what? Doesn't even say. Now lost. We're going to get into that. So here's the people traveling toward Metropolis of Atlantis, all in a line. There's Obro's dad and his people. That's Obro himself there. Gordon Mitchell was in a lot of movies, like 200 plus. Sometimes as background, as henchman, uncredited originally. He was in the Ten Commandments. But he went over to Italy in the height of after 1958 when the Hercules, the Muscle Man fad came along. And this is one of the more interesting and intriguing Muscle Man movies because it's not set in godless or the heathenry, paganry of Rome or Greece. It's just, he's not Hercules, he's not Samson, he's Obro, which is a completely invented hero. Here's our villain, Yotar, and his henchmen there. Yotar is the ruler of Atlantis. He's all involved. He's all up in that science there. He wipes out the invaders, what they call invaders, Obro and his men. But because Obro is so super strong,
He survives. Unfortunately, this is what happens with the what did we call this? The whirlwind of death. Whirlwinds of death. Dun dun dun. Pretty impressive. I mean, yeah. Is it an impressive special effect? No. Look at it. It's simple, but it works. I mean, sometimes simple isn't bad. Obviously, the skeleton's not real. But the architect now, one of the things that makes this movie so intriguing is the way it's shot by the director there, and look at all this negative space that is in the shot here. Plus, the architecture and the sets are incredibly surrealistic, and the costumes even. This is the body that Yotar wants to put his young son's brain into. Like that'll help a teenage boy. Not in the least. There is Elmos is his name, and let me see who. Yeah, Egon is in here as well. And all I could think about is want to take back some of the things I've said about you, Egon. You deserve it. But once again, these are the miniatures of the city that he rules, not crowded at all. Where are all the people? What are they doing? I'm assuming that's supposed to be water behind him, but it's very indistinct. There's Obro after he's been captured. Once again, negative space, just a beautiful shot of Yotar being a jerk. And he's a jerk throughout 85% of the movie. And there's his queen, who's not happy with him, but she's beautiful, of course. There's Yotar's father, who is kept alive somehow. He's 200 years old or something. I don't know. It's a little confusing, but again, I wouldn't say it's a great movie. I'd say it's a fun movie, but it's definitely a distinct peplum. They're not racing around with horses, and there's no real monsters in it. But Yotar wants to test Obro, and he has him fight a semi-giant. And this is a fun scene. He whacks him a couple times with a jawbone of something, or a bone there, which was the giant's, but Obro's too smart for that. Gordon Mitchell's good. It looks good, but unfortunately, he's kind of a wooden face, or Obro same face, if you will. His expression doesn't change very much, and this could have been one of his first starring roles, maybe. I don't know, but alas, he wasn't instructed on how to act, or at least emote a little better, and maybe he couldn't. But he didn't have to too much. The movie moves along well, and you kind of forgive him for being the two-dimensional hero, if that. There's all the Atlanteans who are cheering on Yotar. Then we get a strange dance scene. That's Yotar's daughter, which is a little weird, but he's a little weird. And
the amazing story of an ancient people who achieved marvels of science, but used their discoveries as monstrous instruments of death for.
And this is another test where he's fighting a tribe of cannibalistic, I guess he called them pygmies. I don't know if that's correct anymore, but they spare him, but they chomp on him quite a bit. This is the lava underneath Atlantis, so forewarning.
For unattainable purposes. It is the story of Obro, a man gifted with prodigious strength and superhuman courage. He alone dared contest the cruel power of Metropolis.
That's Yotar using his heavy light, is what I call it. Gravity light. Go figure. I don't know if that's really the thing you could call it, but it works. It just pushes people down. It can also have some other ill effects. There's his wife, who is she's given a credit there, and Queen Texan, Liana Orfe. She's been in other of these, and that's his daughter there, Mercedes Bela Cortez. And once again, I don't think Italy has ugly people in it. Even the bad guys are not bad-looking people. It's just astounding to me. I think, Obro's being sort of experimented on. And then this is the guy who lets him get away, the guard, and he gets zapped and disintegrated or melted. There's just some scenery outside of, and the outside shot of Italy, which is just a beautiful country as well, can't you tell?
Yotar, a mad king, willing to sacrifice his tenderest affections to bring about the triumph of science.
So the queen frees Obro there, and he's got a guy with him, one of the queen's guards, and they have a fight. But they tell him he's going to start his career as a terrorist. Obro first says he doesn't want to hurt anybody, and then spends the rest of the movie killing people. Go figure. And he's fighting them with a chain with a big old ball and chain, really.
Mercedes, incredibly beautiful, but subject to the ruthless, hypnotic power of her father, the king, awakened to a new life of passionate, thrilling love.
Guess who she falls in love with? So the guard sacrifices himself, but Obro's expression never changes. The queen, once she's been found out that she's betrayed the king, King Yotar, and she's killed, I'm assuming, because she dies right after this, puts her dying curse upon him. There you go. There's Mercedes.
Elmos, heir to the throne, destined to receive unattainable eternal youth by means of an inhuman experiment.
That's the inhuman experiment. They're going to put little bitty Elmos' brain into a gigantic body, because that always works out well for people. You'd think if they were from, in the past, they'd have a time machine where they could see in the future. More fighting. There's quite a fair bit of action in here. There's a lot of more. I mean, there's some more talking because they've got to get the points across, and they do.
A motion picture which restates the eternal proposition: freedom or slavery, spirit or materialism, nature or science, love or hatred.
And this is where Mercedes falls in love with him. There's a little scrawny Elmos about to have his brain transplanted. And they just are like, I don't know what happened here. They went out just to get some scenery, and then they go back. So I just love these sets, though. They just did a great job. They're so strange and unusual. Yotar is talking to his father, who you can see is not really there. And now Obro is going to kill him with a stylized, sharp, pointy feather duster. Seems like would work. And right now, Mercedes pleads with Obos not to kill her father, and then he has them beat up. Well, but the numbers game. He puts them in the dungeon. Dun dun dun. And once again, it's just bizarre. This is where you can see into the volcano, which, as we know, is not going to work out well for anybody, because volcanoes in movies never do. And, it's Atlantis. There's little Elmos, and it's like Elmo with an S. And it just, he's not, and the dubbing's pretty good. They do a good job here. They always have, surprisingly, get a good job done. Once more, look at that, more negative space. And now Yotar has had a change of heart and he wants to save his son. I just like this picture because it's a communicator and he's hearing his daughter talk badly about him, and he has it that's, just hits him. I love you, my son. The volcano is erupting. The waves are rising. So is this the island of Atlantis? How did Obro and his people get there? Or did the water just come up that quickly and drown everything else around it? We don't know. They don't tell us. But there's more. They've been assigned to escort them to safety. We'll soon find out there's no safety. And there isn't, because it's just not going to happen. And hold on a moment here. I've got to get a certain device, because that's just what we do. This scene here, the end, the destruction of Atlantis with the floods, goes on a little too long. The movie runs 90 minutes. The version I have, it says in here it runs 98 from Italy, and 85 minutes in France. It is from France. But the 90 minutes is just fine. There's just way too much of this stuff going on at the end. And I took a bunch of screenshots and had to get rid of most of them. But there's some nice miniatures here as well. The explosions aren't too bad, but it goes on. It's like, the flood just went on and on. And there's some nice miniature. Again, more good miniature work, for Italy. I mean, it's not like it's Toho, but they did a good job. It's better than the one. I'm sorry. It's better than the ones from Sweden. So it's flooding the set here, the miniatures, and this. And I'm just using these because they're great pictures. Kaboom! The whole island blows up. Did anyone survive? Oh, at the very end, we see Mercedes crawling toward Obro, and their hands are moving. Then this. We don't even know if little bitty scrawny Elmos survived. You have a word that ends in S, and you put one next to it that begins with S. Elmos survived. We don't know, but that's the end of the movie. And what the heck? It is not a very happy ending, although, it's kind of triumphant, but not really. Probably most of these people are dead, except for these two, and we don't even know how they're getting, if the waters recede far enough for them to go back, or what. It's a little ambiguous, and that's okay. Because a lot of times that is just how life is. It's not going to be that easy to figure out.
The Giant of Metropolis.
And there's the trailer. It's not too bombastic, actually, what it could be. But there you go. That is our movie for today. I hope you've enjoyed the peplum. I highly recommend it. You can get this copy off Internet Archive. There's about 4 of them on there of roughly the same quality. Some of them have Italian titles. This one I like the fact that he did put them all in English. I don't know who it was, but kudos. All right. So until our next adventure, my fellow agents, keep your peplum tight. Nobody wants that falling off in the middle of a fight. This is X7 signing off.
They rule the world in days of old. The mighty sons of Hercules were men as men should be.
The Giant of Metropolis. For the first time, Filmdom has dared to explore the fascinating, mysterious story of Metropolis, the continent that reached its greatest splendor at a period now lost in the darkness of primeval time. The amazing story of an ancient people who achieved marvels of science, but used their discoveries as monstrous instruments of death for unattainable purposes. It is the story of Obro, a man gifted with prodigious strength and superhuman courage. He alone dared contest the cruel power of Metropolis. Yotar, a mad king, willing to sacrifice his tenderest affections to bring about the triumph of science. Mercedes, incredibly beautiful, but subject to the ruthless, hypnotic power of her father, the king, awakened to a new life of passionate, thrilling love. Elmos, heir to the throne, destined to receive unattainable eternal youth by means of an inhuman experiment. A motion picture which restates the eternal proposition, freedom or slavery, spirit or materialism, nature or science, love or hatred. Giant of Metropolis.